sprawling mountains to vast canyons, the wild attractions of the United States are indeed natural wonders. However, nature is delicate and needs to be kept in balance. The most significant balance is that of the encounter and exchange between man and nature. It was the need to preserve the balance between man and nature that brought about the creation of national parks. National parks not only preserve wildlife, but also protect against harm done to the environment and provide a place where people can go to enjoy nature and its splendor while protecting it as well. To quote Wallace Stegner, one of American West's greatest writers, "Our national parks remain the best idea we ever had." The efforts to conserve nature could be seen even before the creation of national parks, such as in the philosophical ideas of the conservation movement. The conservation movement is a political, environmental, and social movement with the goal of conserving and preserving natural resources. The philosophical origins of the movement lie in the writings of early American naturalists, most notable of which being that of John Muir. John Muir sought to provide a counterbalance to those who meant to exploit the natural world for personal gain. He became concerned over unregulated sheep ranching and logging practices, especially the cutting down of giant sequoias. John Muir knew he needed help, so he invited President Theodore Roosevelt to camp in Yosemite National Park. After his trip, Roosevelt was incredibly moved, remarking,
"It was like lying in a great solemn cathedral, far vaster and more beautiful than any built by the hand of man."
In 1901, Roosevelt used his authority to protect wildlife and public lands by creating the United States Forest Service and established 150 national forests and 5 national parks. Later, Congress enacted the National Park Service Act of 1916, which created the National Park System. The creation of the United States Park System was a radical concept, inspired by the idea that it was imperative to preserve our natural and cultural heritage. As a result, millions of acres of valuable land was preserved for generations of Americans. Although Muir did not live to see it, this act turned his vision of protected lands into reality.
The diversity of the parks are amazing, and that's how people choose. They find some place that they feel they have passion for, because that's what it takes to do this job. Is you're constantly interacting with people. If you are shy and don't like to be around people, you can work in the parks, but not as an educator ranger. I do education. That's my primary job, is education.
I think it's really tough to find any just wildlife that you can go just walk around in, you know? Like if it was all private land, obviously you can't do that. So it's really nice that it's open for the public. And I think it's just a great opportunity to be able to get out of cities and just be in nothing but nature for a while. So that's probably the most significant importance to me, I'd say.
The United States' 58 national parks cover more than 14% of land in the whole country, which house a large variety of unique ecosystems. And these expansive parks hold the widest diversity of animals and plant life in the United States. Some 21,000 species are housed and protected in the national parks. Many of these animals are endangered. In regards to the encounter and exchange between man and nature, national parks are crucial in preserving the natural beauty and delicate ecosystems that they house. In the late 20th century, with growing threats such as global warming, population expansion, and habitat destruction, the reduction of biological diversity brought into sharper focus the concept of national parks as ecological laboratories with the goal of preserving these delicate ecosystems. The Park Service almost immediately began planning a new campaign known as the Natural Resource Challenge. Announced in August 1999, the initiative called for accelerated programs for inventorying of parks' native species, both terrestrial and aquatic, monitoring changes in their condition, and protecting and restoring endangered populations while removing non-native species. Volunteer work started to become more and more popular. Volunteers therefore became a crucial part of the National Park system, who estimates some 10 million volunteer hours for this year.
We become great because of our lavish use of our resources. But the time has come to inquire seriously what will happen when our forests are gone, when the coal, the iron, the oil, and the gas are exhausted, when the soils have further impoverished and washed into the streams, polluting the rivers, denuding the fields, and obstructing navigation.
Sometimes the encounter and exchange between man and nature can also be harmful. Logging, poachers, pollution, and forest fires are all dangers the National Park Service works hard to eliminate. Early loggers caused major destruction, like the cutting down of giant sequoias, which was harming the environment. Many of these Californian redwoods were older than the United States itself. This is why it is absolutely vital that these parks are in place to prevent this thoughtless destruction. Fortunately, almost 50% of these redwoods are currently protected by national parks and forests. These protected forests make it virtually impossible for illegal logging and deforestation to take place. Wildfires also pose as a major concern for protection. In 1946 alone, over 70% of forest fires were caused by human means. Parks started to implement new rules and laws to protect these landscapes. With laws such as no open fires in parks, and with newly implemented ad campaigns, such as Smokey the Bear, the Park Service fought hard to eliminate these wildfires. With these new structures of wildlife prevention in place, countless lives and acres of wilderness have been saved. This year, in celebrating the centennial of National Park Service, there has never been a better time to remind our nation that our national parks are a grand yet fragile phenomenon, worthy of our reverence and protection.
We have fallen heirs to the most glorious heritage a people have ever received, and each one must do his part if we wish to show that the nation is worthy of its good fortune.
For me, I think the parks are really important. It's just a way to get outside and to, do something with your friends, to get away from, whatever it is you do during the week. So for me, that's why it's really important. I think this is kind of the one really good place that we can do that at.
National parks have been crucial to the preservation of nature in its diverse ecosystem by allowing man to encounter the treasures it holds without harming it. This both benefits the benevolent individuals who work hard to protect these beautiful lands and the delicate environment. National parks will continue to evolve, as will the relationship between man and nature. People will find new ways to interact and gain valuable resources, while also helping nature with encounter and exchange. There is every reason to believe that Americans will continue to find national parks useful for enhancing the quality of life in the 21st century.